it's not a platform you want to put all your eggs in one basket on. Especially if you're providing for other people.
Getting really good performance out of those ads. So another topic that we'll have to do sometime, and I think everyone would love to hear, is the lazy approach to management of PPC. Because not that we're promoting laziness, but there are times where there are other priorities in life that come up, and you might not be able to spend 40 hours a week for the whole entire week just looking at the hourly reports for a campaign.
Leading the marketing side of a brand, there's just all these different aspects that are super important that you have to keep your eyeballs on. And as you do that, it becomes way more difficult to keep your eyes on like all the nuance that can be involved in Amazon advertising.
Welcome back, everyone, to That Amazon Ads podcast for probably one of, probably going to be the most special, unique episode that we've had so far. Given our guest, also given the milestone that it's episode 50, also given that I'm currently in Seoul, South Korea. I've been in Japan and Korea for, I'm doing a 2.5 week trip, and I needed to mention that in order for the IRS to see that this is a work trip, that is marketing material for the masterclass, because my full-time, my only source of income right now is freelance management for some clients that I work with. I know I talk about AdLabs a lot, but AdLabs does not pay us anything. Not yet. We hope it will. But my full-time, and Andrew too, our full income is freelance management, and that enables us to travel the world working remote. So if you want that, join the masterclass. Now this is a marketing episode, so now I can write off this whole trip as a business expense. And then let's introduce Brett Messieh, who I'm so excited to have him on. If anybody has ever heard me on the Ad Badger podcast or Brett on the Ad Badger podcast, you would know how we got acquainted back 5 years ago when I was first hired at Ad Badger. It was Brett's idea to start the podcast at Ad Badger, which at the time was the PPC Den was the only, I think. Is that right, Brett? The only podcast for Amazon PPC?
I think it was the first one.
Yeah, it was the first one and the only one for a little bit. And then now there's a ton of podcasts, including that Amazon Ads podcast. But Brett, I don't know if you know this, but I basically learned everything. I mean, up until the time when you left Ad Badger, then I was on my own. But I pretty much learned everything that I knew about Amazon PPC from you. And then you introduced me to Andrew. The rest is kind of history. And when Andrew and I started a podcast, we were seeing if you wanted to come on as a guest. And you told us, if we make it to episode 50, then you'll come on. And maybe you didn't think we were going to make it, or maybe you're just busy, and that was a good way to procrastinate for almost a year.
Well, both.
But welcome, Brett. Glad to have you on the show. Thank
you, brother. It's great to be here. And yeah, super proud of you guys for getting to episode 50. It's a huge milestone. And shout out to Mike for kind of getting us into Amazon ads to begin with and carrying Ad Badger podcast that far. Just a little bit background about me. I've been in the Amazon space for close to 10 years now. Kind of started out of my dorm room, just selling, little survival bracelets and that sort of thing. Took that business until it ultimately failed. Jumped into Amazon ads, and started a little agency. Eventually got picked up by a brand. So here we are today. Hopefully I can provide value wherever possible, and excited to kick it off with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And then back in those dorm days, that's what I remember most vividly. Brett and I go way back in college. Our freshman year of college was when we first met. Brett was playing soccer. I played soccer as well. We just kind of met playing some pickup and just hit it off right away. Both had a real passion for business and interest in that type of stuff. And I've gotten the pleasure of watching Brett grow as well, and saw him build this business out of his dorm room, selling stuff on Amazon, and got to witness all that. And so that was my first exposure into e-commerce and all that stuff. And while he was doing that, I was sitting in my room watching videos about how to do business and learning Facebook ads and stuff like that. So it was cool to be a part of that and watch you build that. And now to see where you're at now has been, it's really awesome to see and see how it comes full circle to it, just how you have you taught me a lot about Amazon ads. You influenced Steven as well. And just your impact has certainly been felt. And so it's really cool to have you come back on for a milestone episode. Excited to hear what you have to share and have learned from that experience. Such a a decade of experience in the space. So excited to hear more about that.
Appreciate that, man. Decade doesn't feel like much these days, but we're all on that crawl, walk, run sort of progression. So yeah, excited to hop on here and talk through things with you guys.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, let's not waste any more time. Let's jump right into the topic for today. We're going to be talking about OmniChannel. We got a whole bunch of different topics lined up for you. So let's dive in.
All right, Brett, why don't you give us the definition of what does omni-channel marketing mean? Not just like the simple definition, but more like the strategic definition. What does it mean to you, and why should people know about it, use it, etc.?
So the way I view omnichannel is basically diversification away from one channel or marketplace so that your business is much more robust, and you have the ability to pivot in case shit hits the fan on one marketplace. All right, is shit okay, by the way, on this? We're good?
Yeah,
Say whatever you want.
Yeah, it's fine.
But yeah, our business used to be pretty much 100% based on Amazon. We had pretty extraordinary growth there, probably like 15x the business over a few years. But we ultimately started capping out in our category. They're just, there's only a certain amount of impression volume, click volume in a certain niche on Amazon. And once you kind of reach a certain level of saturation there, it starts making a lot of sense to pivot primarily to Shopify, other marketplaces like Walmart or Wayfair, eBay. There's a lot of opportunity out there in diversification. It also protects you in case Amazon decides to mess with you. I think everyone here is probably well versed with how Amazon support can be sometimes. Sometimes your primary listings will just be broken apart. All the parent-child variations will cease to exist. Sometimes you lose the buy box for whatever random reason. Maybe you get a hijacker. It's just not it's not a platform you want to put all your eggs in one basket on. Especially if you're providing for other people, payroll.
Yeah.
So definitely recommend kind of reaching outside of the Amazon space and trying to establish your footing in other advertising channels and other marketplaces just to protect your business and become more well-rounded. With that comes some challenges, primarily on the advertising side, because attribution becomes a huge puzzle. A lot of your Amazon ads won't convert last click in your advertising platform and will actually go over to your website and vice versa. So that's kind of a new puzzle to deal with as you turn into an omni-channel company, and a big challenge as you probably scale beyond 8 figures.
So here's my biggest question on that. Is it worth the time? Because, and I'm curious for your brand, what the kind of sales percentage has been like, from the start of starting to go omni-channel, and then like now, I think from our conversations, a large percentage of that's still coming from Amazon. And I think for anyone else, like that's where all the sales opportunity is. And so for how much effort it would take to get you set up on Walmart or Wayfair compared to if you just put that time into optimizing your listings or doing something better on Amazon, like, how do people think through that ROI of there's still a lot of opportunity on Amazon? So what really makes it worthwhile investing the time there instead of just putting more effort into Amazon? Obviously, you're talking about like the risk management kind of side of things, but just strictly speaking, ROI, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so about 3 years ago, we were pretty much entirely Amazon. Over the last 3 years, we've now gotten to about 65-35. So 65% Amazon, 35% between Shopify.
That's actually, that's more than I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of the catalog side of things, each marketplace has their own field requirements, and there will be a little bit of groundwork on getting all your SKUs over there. But really, it's just the catalog work, which is heavy loaded. I think the risk reward there is pretty significant, and really that catalog work, I think you can contract out for a few $1,000 a month. Hopefully, you have somebody in house if you're a more established brand, and it's just well worth it. Not only for the improved sleep at night and not worrying about your business collapsing and you not being able to pay the bank or cover payroll or rent. You can instead kind of plan out expansion of your brand on the multiple channels and know, hey, if this one goes down this month or something bad happens, all my eggs are in one basket, and we're still going to be able to eat. So I don't think it's a huge investment up front to really expand channels, but the reward can be substantial.
Yeah, for sure. So, as a brand, this didn't start off as an omnichannel brand. Obviously, it's grown and there's been a lot of change, and started off on Amazon, grown from there. Walk us through some of the process of that transition of going from just being an Amazon brand to branching onto Shopify and these other channels. What are some of the big challenges and pitfalls that you've run into in that process, and how could people kind of overcome those?
Our brand was a little bit more forced in the sense that we were just consistently having problems with Amazon, having issues with our listings breaking apart, random recategorizations. And I know this has become way more frequent on Amazon, at least from sellers we've talked to in the past 6 months or so. I think they've really ramped up what they're doing, just using bots and an algorithm to identify potentially wrong listing information. And instead of validating that with the brand, they just go ahead and ship those changes. And it can really be disruptive for business. So we started having that happen a little bit too much. And we said, all right, it's time to really invest some effort into off Amazon strategies. At the same time in doing this, we started advertising on Google and Facebook. And we actually saw a substantial lift on the Amazon side of things from that. Measuring that has always been tricky, just incrementality testing and seeing what is this dollar on Facebook driving on Shopify and what's it driving on Amazon? These are all difficult questions, but I'd say as a whole, our business is substantially more robust after doing that.
Yeah. And what are some ways to solve that attribution issue? What are some tools that you're using, or ways you're trying to solve that attribution issue where you're trying to figure out what the value of one platform versus another is? What are some different things you're doing for that?
So we use a third-party attribution tool called Northbeam. And basically every advertising channel is going to try to claim credit for the conversion and say, it was me, I drove that sale. So really you need a third-party independent tool in the middle that has pixels on your website and kind of has all of the link clicks tagged along the way. And what that attribution tool does for us is, instead of just viewing things from a last click attribution perspective where, hey, this branded keyword bottom of the funnel on Amazon got the last click, we should just jam all our money there. That doesn't make sense. So instead what it does is it looks at each click along the funnel and the buyer journey, and it takes that final revenue and it divides it evenly amongst each click along that conversion cycle. So rather than looking at things purely from a last click attribution perspective, you can kind of look at your funnel more holistically and then allocate spend more efficiently. So throughout the funnel, you're consistently there. This sort of thing is definitely beneficial for items that have a longer conversion cycle like ours. 50% of our customers don't even convert until after month 1. So between month 1 and 6, that's half our customers. Between 0 and month 1, that's about half of our customers. And that gets really tricky on Amazon because sponsored products is 7-day last click attribution. Sponsored brands and display is 14-day last click attribution. So at some point in there, you kind of lose visibility of a lot of these customers, and just knowing how impactful each part of your funnel is more and more important as you scale.
Yeah, for sure. And you and I were talking a little bit about Amazon Marketing Cloud yesterday and how you guys are starting to tap into that a little bit more to at least map that customer journey on Amazon as best as you can. So that's cool to hear some of those different tools that people have access to and everything like that.
Yeah, Northbeam is our, ties Google and Facebook and Twitter and Bing, all this stuff together, and kind of gives us multi-touch attribution through there. Ironically, most of the spend that we have is still Amazon based, and we still haven't even gotten on DSP and AMC. So that's where we are in our cycle now. We're about to kick up an AMC instance and kind of have a much better understanding of that whole funnel on Amazon.
But you can't see Facebook contribution to Amazon sales, right? Northbeam
Yep.
doesn't do that unless if you were using the Amazon attribution and stuff like that. But
nope, just the good old Amazon black box as usual. So
yeah,
I think it gives you multiple pieces of the puzzle, but definitely not the entire puzzle.
Right.
You piece that together with like exit surveys and that sort of thing.
So mostly for the D2C channels, or do you mean all other channels basically that are non-Amazon? You're able to kind of rectify all that data in terms of the attribution.
Yep, kind of rectify it all. I think AMC is going to be a huge piece of that puzzle, but really just looking at exactly what those channels drove directly on Shopify. Our specific business also has a sales team, since they're larger ticket items that people have a lot of question or need installation for. A lot of the times they'll end up calling up our sales rep and converting over the phone, which is also disastrous for attribution, especially for ones that bounce from Amazon, go over to Shopify, and our pixels over there don't even pick them up because they picked up a phone and called a sales rep and converted. So we've had a lot of challenges with that, kind of feeding back all of that conversion data back into our ad platforms. And I think the importance of a CRM really becomes super noticeable in that situation, because all that pixel data that each person is accruing can sometimes drop off. And if you have a good CRM, we use HubSpot to kind of tie those phone conversions back to the actual device. It's hugely impactful and has helped us quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to the day when Amazon allows you to at least like import all of the other like Northbeam data. Like maybe Amazon won't give you something that you can import into Northbeam, but hopefully they at least let you import from Northbeam into the AMC or something, just to like, there's got to be somewhere to just bring it all together, because I see this all the time with one brand in particular that is has a bit of a novel product. And so people aren't actively searching for them for this product because they don't know it exists. But when they run these big Facebook campaigns, then there's all these sales that come on Amazon because but they don't even necessarily remember the brand name. We just see them searching like generically for like what the item is. And then we have to still bid on those because those are technically non-brand keywords. And so we're getting sales and it looks like the non-brand campaigns are doing really well. But then it's like, yeah, there was a Facebook campaign that drove all that traffic, right? Because people see the product and they don't really like remember the brand name. They're like, oh, like I did this the other day. When I was getting on the plane flight, I was buying this big inflatable pillow that you lean forward on so you can like sleep on a plane easier. It's like takes up your entire lap. And there was I had seen some brand selling it. Couldn't remember the brand. It was on Facebook or Instagram, I mean. And so I just searched on Amazon for like the product and I bought someone else's product probably. But if I did buy that brand, because if they would have been defending it, et cetera. So like, I'm not sure how much of you guys are even doing with like Facebook, Instagram ads and everything like that. But I think typically what people say is the solution to this is a mixed marketing model or mixed marketing model, MMM.
Media mix model or something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. Marketing media mixer. But basically it's a system that can, it's not necessarily solving the attribution, but it's doing a ton of like statistical analysis around the level of impressions and trying to like find correlations and all this kind of stuff. And apparently it's complicated. I don't know.
It is. It is complicated. Basically it'll help you figure out like at certain investment levels in different channels, like what the overall impact for the business is going to be. So it brings all the data across all your platforms together and helps, forecast potential returns on different channels, investment levels.
And my question is that something, Brett, that you've considered that you'd want to explore, or do you think that like a tool like Northbeam pretty much solves the most critical questions for you?
I think it does a pretty good job. Other than that, we use something called Motion just for creative analytics. And to answer your question about like 30% of our spend is between Google and Facebook. Of that 30%, Google comprises probably 20% of that, and Facebook 10%. So we just brought somebody on about 7 months ago who's really talented on the creative department. So I think that's kind of been our next focus and our next evolution is trying to find our footing there and really build out the off Amazon funnel. And in doing so, we've seen pretty good improvements on the Amazon side of things as well, just in terms of conversion rate and revenue improvement. The caveat there is that our entire category over the last 2 years has been declining, especially over the last year. So it kind of sucks, like seeing a lot of improvement in the account and to the business overall, and then you're able to like remain flat. But yeah, given the context of the situation and everything, I think we're pretty happy with that, given our size this year. So I think creative iteration, and kind of feeding all that creative back over to Amazon wherever you can. Sponsored brand ads. We're about to kick up sponsored TV. I think that can be very beneficial rather than just your typical Amazon strategy, which is good CRO, good PPC, good customer service, and if you have a good product, then you can do pretty well on Amazon. I think you just give yourself an extra leg to stand on if you start attaching a brand to things, start expanding as much as possible outside of Amazon, just in case you have the shit hits a fan moment.
So you'll be covered.
Yeah.
So I think something else that all of that external creative work that you do while you're building out your off Amazon strategy, there's another benefit to that, and that is on Amazon CRO. So while you're doing photography and videography, if you can kind of take all of that and then re-implement it back into Amazon, make sure that there are models with eyeballs in your images, make sure that instead of everybody who's doing maybe a white background and is within TOS, maybe you can go slightly gray area and start rendering some really nice backgrounds to kind of stand out and get that click. Make sure your resolution for all of your imagery is super high. You can have a really nice video in there that shows your product features and benefits. I think you can get a lot of kind of extra incremental benefit from kind of building out those channels by just taking all that content and then implementing it in your current Amazon strategy. I think probably everybody watching this knows, Amazon advertising is super important and core to your business, but I think CRO is like the right hand to Amazon advertising, and you need to constantly be on an iterative cycle, A/B testing titles, bullets, A+ content, imagery, pretty much everything on a recurring basis. And as you do that Facebook and Google expansion and try to build a more robust brand, you can take all those efforts and kind of thread them into what you're already doing for pretty substantial benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. Making sure that content is dialed in, that's super key. Just driving ads and everything isn't going to, drive the conversion. So that's a good point. Would you say that that's like the biggest change, or biggest shift? You started in PPC primarily, and then you shifted to the brand side. So would you say that like that's been the biggest differentiator in terms of like what you're focused on, or what like the main priorities are? Are you more focused on like the conversion rate optimization and the listings and making sure those are taken care of more than the PPC now? Or like, I don't know, because we come from an agency background working primarily just on the PPC side of things. You have a lot more experience on the brand side. What's like the biggest difference between just being somebody who's handling the PPC for a brand versus somebody who's like working in-house at a brand and handling all these other things? What are some of like the conversations that are happening internally and some of the differences between those two different roles that you've played? Yeah,
so a lot of more discussions around forecasting, cash flow management, the inventory situation. I feel like a lot of times when you're at an agency, you can kind of be more detached from the realities of the business, and that like you owe the bank money, you have to pay rent, you have payroll, you have taxes. Like these are all super top of mind in the brand, and it really just becomes way more evident how important it is to take that inventory that you bet on 6 months ago and turn that to cash. And if you're not able to do that in time, it can just cause a lot of issues in the business, and that becomes way more apparent when you're in-house. One thing that we talk about a lot internally is just, sometimes it's much better if we just accept a lower margin and move product, but are able to turn that product 4 times a year instead of 2. So these type of discussions become top of mind. One big project that we've been working on recently is basically taking building out a spreadsheet for performance by SKU that doesn't just look at things from an Amazon perspective, but it also brings in numbers from Shopify, brings in our Amazon spend, but also looks at Facebook and Google and Twitter and Bing and everywhere we're spending, and it kind of allocates spend to each of those SKUs, and then does like a breakdown so we can get down to basically contribution margin by SKU. And in doing that, we've just been able to become much more sophisticated. The downside to that is it's much more difficult now to kind of dive into the weeds of any specific subject. Like you guys at this point are way more in the weeds and well-versed in advertising on Amazon than I am, just because I'm not in it every single day. I don't have a bunch of agency clients to kind of compare what's working on this account, what's not working on this account. So as you kind of do that and begin to look at marketing more holistically and look at all these different aspects of the brand, from communication and your email funnel, and how your website's performing, what's your bounce rate there, what's your time to load, what's your what's your app lineup there. There's all these different little things that can break on all different parts of the business now that kind of need eyeballs on them. So that's been a big point of growth for me personally, as I kind of got out of strictly Amazon advertising management and entered into role leading the marketing side of a brand. There's just all these different aspects that are super important that you have to keep your eyeballs on. And as you do that, it becomes way more difficult to keep your eyes on like all the nuance that can be involved in Amazon advertising. So in a long-winded answer to your question, outsourcing is really important. And I think finding people who can take care of tasks for you and really help you optimize the way that you manage your business is super important. Shameless plug. That is one thing that AdLabs has been helping us out with a lot. So we've been using AdLabs for months now. And for bid optimization, it's been really helpful for us because we can kind of just look at what we want our target A cost to be by SKU, and kind of also look at that performance by SKU spreadsheet that we built out, so we can look at things not just from an Amazon blended A cost, but just look at blended A costs as in every single dollar that we spend on it, regardless of channel. And we're able to pretty much come up with what our advertising budget is from there, and then AdLabs does the heavy lifting in terms of bid optimization. So we kind of just enter target by campaigns. It spits out all the suggested recommendations. We can come through and see the ones we like, see the ones we don't like, and go from there.
But Brett, there's so many other tools that do the same thing, right? You just like take your campaigns, enter your target A cost, and send it. So why don't you use another tool?
So I think the algorithms that are built out can be very sketchy. And we kind of started off the episode talking about like OmniChannel attribution and that sort of thing. I think when you give all that power over to a tool to then, run analysis on basically all last click attribution, and then use an algorithm that may not be entirely accurate to just ship all these changes in automated fashion. Not only that, but doing it sometimes daily, sometimes, every other day. I think sometimes even weekly is too much change. Like there's seasonality involved. There's so many factors that could be affecting your listing and your sales volume that day and your other KPIs. So I think too frequent of changes can be very dangerous in an account, and you just don't get data confidence, which I think is the utmost important factor in Amazon advertising. So that's what AdLabs kind of gives us. It gives us that control. It lets us pick timeframes very effectively and ship changes when we look back and say, okay, this is like a 3-week window of really strong data confidence. If we go ahead and enter optimization targets around that 3-week time frame, we're pretty confident those are actually going to be useful. And one quote I like to bring up for this all the time is garbage in, garbage out. So you need to make sure that you don't have garbage going in if you want your output to be quality. So that time frame, sophistication, and then our trust in just the bidding algorithms is what makes us confident. On top of that, we're not just pressing a button and, throwing away the key and crossing our fingers. Like, it gives us all the suggested outputs that we can come through and say, okay, this is sensible, maybe not this one. But yeah, it just gives us way more control without having to actually go and screw around with bulk sheets, which I can't stand.
Yeah. I will say, wait, sorry, what was the last thing you said that you, with about the bulk sheets?
I can't stand those bulk sheets, dude.
Oh, yeah. Dude, that was when I first met Brett.
Yeah.
All right. When I first met Brett at Ad Badger and we were managing PPC campaigns, I was like trying to optimize bids for like, there's a campaign that had like 50 keywords, and I was like doing one at a time in the console. I was like, there's got to be a faster way. Like my first thought was just like, I am not going to sit here and do this. I'm going to go find a way. And I discovered bulk sheets. And then I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I like showed it to Brett. I was like, oh, look, bulk sheets or whatever. Brett never used them for the rest of his career. He was always doing things in the ad console, but you always got phenomenal performance, right? Which I think is crazy. Like so you started off freelancing for this brand, managing their ads. Eventually they hire you on to become their CMO. So you join the brand full time and you have continued to be in charge of the ads while you're focusing on all the other work of the business. And the ads have continued to grow and scale and perform despite the fact that you don't use bulk sheets and you have limited time in general to really like dig deep into the console, what's going on there. So, and you've had that with other clients too, that I've seen you manage that, like with minimal effort, getting really good performance out of those ads. So another topic that we'll have to do sometime, and I think everyone would love to hear, is the lazy approach to management of PPC, because not that we're promoting laziness, but there are times where there are other priorities in life that come up, and you might not be able to spend 40 hours a week for the whole entire week just looking at the hourly reports for a campaign and diving in super deep. There are times when time is short, so we'll have you back on for that if you're interested. But I'm going to switch the topics a little bit, and going back to the OmniChannel concept, because I was just thinking, you were mentioning, payroll, bankroll, this kind of stuff. That's the importance of, and I like that concept also, just like the inventory management and being able to diversify that risk as well and turning that inventory into cash. But if there's a brand that's doing less than $1 million a year in revenue and they don't really have a payroll, like maybe they're the only real employee, is it really worth it to them to start, like, the business risks aren't necessarily as huge as opposed to like a larger brand with a lot of staff. So would you say if someone's below a certain revenue point that it's better to just kind of focus on the opportunity in Amazon, or would you recommend even for small businesses to spread out?
Definitely try to saturate yourself in your category for all of your core products that you currently have. Mm-hmm. So just to kind of give you a sense of our journey, we had one specific niche, but I don't mind sharing it. So our brand is in the mattress and adjustable bed category. So we started off pretty much low 6 figures, and we're able to scale into mid 8 figures mid 8 figures on an annualized basis, pretty much just by saturating our own category and trying to fill every single price point in that niche, and just offering a really good product at a really good price point, and doing our best with customer service. So as we really scaled up to that point, we eventually noticed that in our search term impression share report and also in brand analytics that we were number 1 or number 2 for practically every relevant keyword in our niche. So at that point, when we also had stuff starting to go wrong on Amazon, it was just kind of an obvious play, for us to pivot a little bit and start that expansion. For most people, I think they probably have a great opportunity on Amazon, and maybe it's 80% of the way optimized, like fully optimized. So yeah, definitely make sure you've eaten as much of your cake on Amazon, and really secure your place in that market before you put too much effort elsewhere, would be my recommendation. But really, Amazon is, I feel like if you have a core set of campaigns and you've done a good job with conversion rate optimization, there's really not too much to do on the Amazon side of things outside of that as a marketer. And obviously, like, routine maintenance of those things is important, but in terms of like new work and and trying to find incremental revenue. Once you've kind of done the groundwork of setting up a really good campaign structure in advertising, you've done CRO, you have, pretty much a great storefront, you have good customer service, you've taken care of all of the foundational work, then I think you can kind of start pivoting your focus elsewhere. But Amazon, I think, still has 60% of all online searches originating on Amazon. So as long as that's the case, definitely make sure that's your number one priority. As a brand, 70% of our, roughly 70% of our sales and advertising spend is still directed through Amazon. So huge focus there is still, something important for us. But ultimately, I don't think it's going to allow us to grow beyond our current revenue levels just because we're so saturated in that niche.
Yeah, makes sense. So with more and more markets becoming saturated on Amazon, what do you see in your mind, from your perspective and your experience, is the biggest opportunity for sellers on Amazon? What's the untapped area of potential that's still available for sellers on Amazon?
You want me to give the alpha away? Yeah, so I'm of the opinion that most categories on Amazon for small pack items are saturated to hell at this point. You've had a whole bunch of private equity roll-ups and groups like Thrasio coming in and just buying up all these brands. A lot of those just went under in the last couple of years, and you have all these companies now that are in like liquidation mode, just trying to claw back 25 cents on the dollar for all this inventory that they have. On top of that, you have new sellers launching all the time, basically accepting that their first 2 or 3 containers that they order are going to be sold at a net loss just to try to establish a listing. That makes it a very difficult landscape for most products that, I call them like mom's basement products. Basically, it's stuff that you can just source from Alibaba, send it to a fulfillment center, and kind of let Amazon do the rest. So I think those days are coming to a close, and it's starting to get to the point where you need to invest between $50,000 and $100,000, I think, to predictably launch a product that's actually going to be able to stick, assuming it's in a highly competitive category. If you're selling vitamins or kitchenware or tumblers or bowls on Amazon, like, good luck unless you have like a real differentiating factor or your product is just awesome. Or, you have like a celebrity endorsement or something like that. You're going into a market where there's probably, listings with 100,000 reviews that you're competing with, who have purchasing power that's probably 3 times what yours is. So I think the best strategy at this point on Amazon, and really like the blue ocean strategy that you can find, is with large pack items. By large pack, I mean LTL items, or less than truckload deliveries of items that are just massive, that nobody wants to touch or deal with. Things like home gym equipment, like just items that will require a pallet and a box truck to actually deliver to the person's home. There's definitely some added work on this, some added work in this niche, in that you're going to have to work with LTL trucking companies who frequently damage your items. So you kind of have to bake that into your margins a little bit. But I think the added hassle of having that in-home setup option and large shipping makes it so that you're competing with a much smaller pool of sellers. And oftentimes sellers are not nearly as sophisticated as a group of sellers that you'll find in like the makeup category or kitchenware. So I think that's where a lot of the opportunity lies. If you're able to kind of get over that hump of, damn, I have to, instead of shipping my item directly to the consumer, I'm going to be, calling Old Dominion or something and having them pick up this this bed base and drop it off at this person's house, and it may get dinged along the way, so we're gonna have to take care of the customer if that happens. And it's definitely an added hassle, but it makes it so that you're just much more competitive. Like, a lot of people don't want to jump through those hoops to be able to sell those products, and I think that's going to be the golden age on Amazon over the next 5 years. look at selling huge tables or computer desks, or just these categories have a good amount of volume, and people are starting to get much more comfortable buying these items on Amazon. And there's also the benefit that a lot of these items are larger ticket. So instead of having to sell 10,000 of a smaller item, you may only have to sell 300 of a larger item to actually generate the same amount of sales volume. So it can be a much easier way to climb the revenue ladder against less sophisticated competition, just by dealing with some hassles that other sellers don't have to deal with. But I think that's where there's a lot of room for growth on Amazon still. With all that said, please don't launch any large items. Leave that all to us. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All the alpha right at the end of the episode where nobody will hear it. Perfect.
While you were talking, Brett, I just ordered 10 jacuzzis from Alibaba. So
Hell yeah.
they try to turn those around.
Yeah, we talked to a guy recently selling jacuzzis, and he actually, he has like basically like boom trucks that go and deliver them to the residences, and then they can lift them like 15 feet in the air, like over gates, and then just drop them right into the backyard.
Set them in the backyard.
Installation. Yeah, like nobody wants to deal with that, but this that particular guy is doing like $100 million a year between like that and like golf carts. So I feel like that's where a lot of opportunity lies on Amazon, and hopefully some people listening to this, maybe one or two remaining, can jump into that. And
yeah, I gotta start thinking about what other large things I can sell on. I'm just gonna start walking around my neighborhood, just looking at objects.
In Korea,
in Korea, yeah. Just, that's a car. Maybe we could sell a car online.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Brett, as we wrap things up, I would love for you to give everyone who's listening and who's made it this far your parting one piece of advice that stems from, if you had a second chance at the Amazon space, what do you wish you would have known? What do you wish you would have done different? What's like that one piece that you think would be helpful to someone out there who's just getting started?
Enjoy the Dunning-Kruger curve.
Was that the?
Explain what that is.
you told me that 5 years ago. I forgot what it was.
Yeah, so Dunning-Kruger curve is basically whenever you first learn a topic, you don't know anything about it, you feel like a complete idiot. And then, I don't know, maybe you guys can put up like a little chart of this.
We're gonna have to pull it up.
A few months into your cycle, as you learn a little bit, you reach the I think they call it the peak of Mount Stupid, where you're like, oh, this is easy, I know everything, like I'm good to go. And then you jump into it, and then like the chart just tanks, and then you're back in the trough, and you're like, oh, I don't know anything about this, I'm never gonna learn this, I'm terrible, how am I ever gonna make it through this? And then slowly over time you build back confidence as you increase your confidence level in a given subject. And as I've grown older, I've found that that chart and that curve applies to basically everything in life, especially jiu-jitsu. So I think that's my one piece of advice, is just try to enjoy the journey. Don't try to rush to hit any revenue goal immediately necessarily. Just try to do the best job with the cards that you have in front of you. I think that applies to all aspects of life. Just do your best and enjoy the journey.
Wise words.
Thanks again, Brett. Looking forward to hopefully having you back on in future stuff, and hopefully all three of us can hang out sometime. We've never all three of us hung out before.
Nope.
So
sure.
First time for everything.
Yeah, so that'd be fun. But all right. Thanks again, guys, and thank you all for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe, drop comments, and we'll give Brett's contact information down below as well. So if you want to get in touch with Brett, his LinkedIn will be down there. And we're looking forward to talking to you guys next time on That Amazon Ads Podcast. Peace.